Hello everyone, welcome back to CNA, the daily news analysis. Today, the date is 5th of December. These are my working experiences. We may go through it. If you want to download today's PDF, you can join our WhatsApp group or our Telegram channel. I'd like to inform about our IGP program, Interview Guidance Program, which is going on in full swing, and the registration is still on, and it is completely free. Please let your dear ones know about it. This is our content space. Today we'll be discussing the following topics. So let's head on with the first news of the day. India, disability, inclusion, and the power of buy. So why was it in the news? Because disability, it's a complex condition that intersects with social, economic, and gender vulnerabilities, necessitating the development of strategies for equity and inclusion. So the magnitude of disability and existing disparity. So globally, approximately 1.3 billion people, which is also equivalent to India's entire population, have some form of disability, emphasizing the need for global disability issues. 80% of the disabled population is in developing countries, with 70% in rural areas, emphasizing the need for targeted interventions. Current challenges faced by person with disabilities যদি আমি চাওঁ, first thing হৈ গ'ল exclusionary practices. So exclude কৰি দিয়া যায় ইহঁতক বহুত ক্ষেত্ৰৰ পৰা. So current systems বিলাক যেনেকুৱা আছে, it have been frequently overlooked. They frequently overlook the needs of individuals with disabilities, resulting in exclusionary practices, poverty, limited education, reduced opportunities, and also socio-economic discrimination. Now, as per the suggestions of ILO, International Labour Organization, now this is very important, International Labour Organization. If you don't know about it, so find it out and write it down in the comment section when it was established and what is its main objective. So please write it down in the comment box. So the ILO has suggesting that incorporating the disabled individuals into the economy could increase the global GDP by 3% to 7%. So ইহঁতক যদি আমি ইনক্লুড কৰো তেতিয়াহলে ইনক্ৰিজ হৈ যাব আমাৰ GDP to 7%. Apart from that, employment challenges বিলাকো আছে, because the current employment system restricts the disabled individuals, perpetuates the stereotypes, and creates barriers, violating the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. So সেইটো কাৰণে person with disabilities বিলাকৰ কাৰণে সিহঁতৰ employment seek কৰোতে সিহঁতে অলপমান challenges face কৰিব লাগে. Apart from that, there are greater rural challenges in disability inclusion. So rural India faces significant disability inclusion challenges due to limited access to education and employment. And individuals with disabilities are also often seen as charity objects, right? They're often seen as charity objects rather than active participants. So these are some of the challenges. Now let's have a look about the Spark project. Okay, so Spark project ulaise kone amar ILO and IFAD, International Fund for Agricultural Development and Women's Development Corporation, okay, in Maharashtra. So they are implementing the Sparking Disability Inclusive Rural Transformation. So full form is Spark. So full form to apnaloge sai labo, abbreviation is very important. Ahi thake exam ot, involving persons with disabilities as disability inclusion facilitators. Okay, so DIF boli koa goise ihotok. Now DIF hihote ki koribo, DIF they will raise awareness about the disability inclusion and also mainstream the women into self-help groups for socio-economic development, resulting in an attitudinal shift towards the disabled individuals. Now, steps to be taken to implement disability inclusion effectively. For first step on our formulation of the comprehensive inclusive policies. So yes, formulation koribo lagibo, eta holistic approach dibo lagibo to rethinking and redesigning the systems and policies. And it is very essential for inclusive and considerate treatment of the persons with disabilities, considering socio-economic and gender dimensions, obviously. Apart from that, crucial distinction in disability inclusion for and by. Now, this is very, very interesting. The for approach in disability inclusion involves actions on behalf of disabled individuals. Okay, so that's why it is for. But যিটো বাই এপ্ৰোচ আছে ইট ইনভলভস দেয়াৰ এক্টিভ পাৰ্টিচিপেশ্যন ইন ডিচিশন মেকিং হওক বা প্লেনিং হওক ইমপ্লিমেন্টেশ্যন হওক ওকে সো এইবিলাকত সিহঁতৰ এক্টিভ পাৰ্টিচিপেশ্যন সো বাই ৱৰ্ডটো আহি গ'লে সিহঁতৰ ডাইৰেক্টলি ইনভলভ থাকিব এণ্ড ফৰ ৱৰ্ডটো আহি গ'লে দে উইল বি ৰিপ্ৰেজেণ্টেড দেয়াৰ ওকে apart from that collaborative process with the persons with disabilities বিলাকো আছে like the true disability inclusion involves a collaborative process where persons with disabilities are not the passive recipients but active contributors. So just like the BI. Apart from that, implementation of bottom-up approach is also a very significant step, whereas the private sector is crucial in promoting employment opportunities for these people in the rural areas, promoting active participation in society and economy, and prioritizing their inclusion in the development. Apart from that, link poverty and sustainable development goals bilako ase, global prioritization of disability inclusion ase. So link poverty and sustainable development goals. If you look here, then the research indicates that a bi-directional link between the disability inclusion and poverty, nutrition, and hunger. Okay, which also highlights the need for a fundamental shift in commitment, solidarity, financing, and action. Global prioritization of disability inclusion. So the global development agenda must prioritize the voices and needs of persons with disabilities, promoting inclusivity and active participation for through development. So here's a question given, please go through it. Supreme Court on extension of PSF jurisdiction. Now the Supreme Court clarified that the 2021 notification expanding the BSF's jurisdiction in Punjab only grants them concurrent jurisdiction to prevent specific offenses, which means what BSF or jurisdiction ase etu alaman increase kori dise 50 kilometer loke agote 15 asile eta 50 kilometer loke kori dise but tate hiator iman eta jurisdiction nai okay concurrent jurisdiction ase boli koise joteke tajikin local police and all hiotoru jurisdiction thakibo. Now, center's notification about extending BSF's jurisdiction. So, notification to replace korise agora notification asle 2014 order under the BSF Act 1968 covering the areas of Manipur, Mizoram, Tripura, Nagaland, Meghalaya. Then again, our UT bilako ase JNK, Ladakh, and of course, our Assam, West Bengal, Punjab, kotao kwa koise. So, BSF it have been it searches for violations like narcotics, smuggling, illegal entry, and other Central Act offenses. So after detention, preliminary question is conducted but not prosecuted. So you have to prosecute just questioning and all, but still they have some special powers. BSF was special powers. So 1968 of the BSF Act it grants a jurisdiction to BSF in border states with Gujarat now having a uniform 50 kilometers jurisdiction. So this extends the jurisdiction to offenses under the Criminal Procedure Code 1973 and the Passport Act 1967. So there are still issues which is involved in the extension of this jurisdiction. So issues bilak jodi ami sao tetiale one of the issues is like public order versus security of state, whereas the public order and police are primarily the state government's responsibilities, but serious public disorder threatens the state security as well. Okay, and also notifying the union government can weaken the federalism. Okay, can weaken the federalism and affect the border security force function as well. Okay, so Punjab, for example, it has a 50-kilometer concurrent power with state police over cognizable offenses under the Indian Penal Code, impacting the major cities. Apart from that, Gujarat and Rajasthan have marsh, land, and desert respectively, which can be extended due to the absence of major urban centers. So, এইবিলাক জাগাত extend কৰিব পাৰে jurisdiction. Constitutional viewpoint to কি আছে on deployment of the armed forces in the state. So, Article 355 ইয়াতে আহি যায়, which allows the center to deploy its forces to protect a state against external aggression and internal disturbance as well, even if the state does not require any assistance. Now, if a state opposes the deployment, the center should issue directives under Article 355. Okay, and also tar upore jodi state jodi comply nokore tetiale the center can take further action under Article 356, which is President's rule. Right now, apart from that, constitutional viewpoint on deployment of armed forces again jodi ami sao tetiale Aru kothabilak ase yate like the BSF which was established in 1965, okay, after the Indian-Pakistan war, okay, so BSF or kotha yate likha ase about the BSF. So BSF ketia established hosile in 1965 after the India-Pakistan war, and it is one of the India's 7 central armed forces, okay. So baki khini ki ase yate likha ase Assam Rifles, CISF, NSG, SSB, CRPF, etc. Now, it is deployed along the Pakistan and Bangladesh borders, the Indo-Pakistan international border, and the line of control. So, the 2.65 lakh force, right? So, it's a very massive force. 2.65 lakh force. This force defends the Sar Creek and the Sundarban Delta with its advanced fleet of watercrafts as well. The BSF also contributes to the UN peacekeeping mission by sending a large contingent of trained manpower annually. Here's a question, please go through it. Coal phase out in COP28 pledge. So COP28 amar soli ase, you guys know about it. Everyday news at ahi ase. Now why was it in the news? Because coal or karone jeto coal phase out jeto amar soli ase, he coal phase out India sign koribole nwaro boli koise. Okay? So that's why it was in the news. Now, why India will continue to rely on coal for foreseeable future? Because India plans to continue primarily producing coal electricity for the foreseeable future, despite increasing renewable energy use. Okay, so now this contradicts its goal of becoming net zero by 23, okay, and 2070. So 23 loke 50% koise and 2070 loke amar commitment kiman ase 100%, right? So yate eta kotha ahi ja about the fund summary strategies. So fund summary strategies ki hoy, please write it down in the comment box. Okay, this is very very important question aha answer exam aha bahut chance ase. Now, apart from that, India's growing energy demand, now India's power demand surged by 8% in 2022. Now reaching over 149.7 terawatt hour. Okay, TWH mane ki terawatt hour. So largely driven by increased economic activity. Industrial and commercial sectors dominate, with homes and agriculture accounting for a significant portion of the power use. Okay, gotike sobote amar energy demand bari goise. So that is why amar coal dependency ase, because coal amar logot immediate source eta hoy. So India's coal production have been increased by 14% from 778 million tons in 2021-2022 to 893 million tons in 2022 to 2023. Now, according to the coal ministry, this is the data. Okay. Now, the country also aims to increase production to 1.5 billion tons by 2030. So, I mean, increase go as a coal production because that is our immediate energy source. Now, apart from that, why coal is the only fix for India's growing energy demand? Right. So, it was a question at India renewable energy source demand kini ase amar India, that is approximately 22%. That is approximately 22% of the country's total energy production, with coal accounting for 75% of its power supply, despite efforts to increase the renewable sources. Now, India's renewable sources, including battery storage and hydroelectric projects, okay, battery storage and hydroelectric projects like ase amar. Now, these faces some of the challenges such as ecological damage, right? Potential water resource conflicts. Now, grid scale battery storage, now this is expensive due to supply chain disruptions. Nuclear power plants which produce about 3.15% of India's total electricity in 2021 to 2022 have not been successful in generating power. So that is why we are still relying on the coal. Now, key highlights today আমি চাও এই প্লেজ টুৰ কথা COP28 যোনটো পেজ কথা হৈছে about coal phase out, তেতিয়াহলে India plays to triple global energy install capacity by 2030 already, which is a goal already supported by the G20 grouping. So আমি already আমাৰ commitment দিয়ে দিছো. However, যোনটো pledge আছে, it included some references to coal phase out and a ban on the new investments in the sector. Now, হেতু কাৰণে India was not a part of the COP discussions, okay, as these pledges have no legal sanctity. Now, India also declined to endorse a health declaration, which highlighted the severe impact of climate change on human health and well-being. The declaration also mentioned the curbing emissions from the health sector and assessing greenhouse gas emissions of health systems. India has emphasized its stance against aligning with sectoral approaches outside the UNFCCC framework. Improving the capability of the Indian state is our next news. So, our India jikhini rules, regulations, protocols, and all, সেইবিলাক বহুত বেছি complicated বুলি কোৱা গৈছে. That is why it was in the news, because the Indian state is a paradox of being too big and too small, with a complex system of licenses, permits, clearances, and permissions that can make life difficult for even the ordinary citizens, making it difficult to navigate the law. So the position of the Indian state compared to the others, যদি আমি চাওঁ, that India has the smallest number of civil servants per capita in the G20 group. So আটাইতকৈ কম আছে বুলি কৈছে, with a public sector employment share of 5.77% only, which is half that of Indonesia and China, and also a third of what? UK. Now, apart from that, the number of central government personnel is also lower than in the US as well. The challenges before the Indian state, there are some challenges like state or insufficient state capability leads to outsourcing services like primary health to the public sector due to its small tax GDP ratio and public expenditure GDP ratio. Perverse incentives and skill gaps among officials erode the political, executive, and civil services ability to make and implement the sound policies. Now, India faces challenges in governance as well, including the extreme concentration of policy making and implementation. Now, ইয়াতে যদি আমি চাওঁ তেতিয়াহলে lack of professional staff আছে, weak oversight আছে, audit practices বিলাক আছে, okay, weak audit practices, then problematic appointment of the retired officers to regulatory bodies and tribunals. So these are some of the challenges that we should work on. Now, the political economy of the public sector also undermines its efficacy, with performance-linked pay and incentive schemes not being effective in the public sector. High salaries in the public sector breed corruption in appointments, making government jobs highly lucrative for all. So, government initiatives bilako dia ase. So, regarding such kind of issues like Mission Karmyogi, then lateral entry, then Swamvita scheme. Now, this is very, very important scheme. Now, apart from that, the CP grams, the centralized public grievance redress and monitoring system. Now, this is also very, very important. Okay. So here goes a question. Here comes our prelims fact. The first prelim fact is about the Mount Marapi. Okay, which is located in the region of Sumatra. So Indonesia's Mount Marapi, also known as the Mountain of Fire, has erupted in the West Sumatra province, causing ash plumes over 3,000 meters high. So 3,000 meters, 3 kilometer high locator as a celebrity ash plumes. Now, with over 60 eruptions in the last 18th century, it is the most active volcano in Sumatra. So Sumatra region most active volcano and the Pacific Ring of Fire, also known as the Circum-Pacific Belt. Okay, so tate amar ekhini pore region to pore, which is a 40,000 kilometer long path along the Pacific Ocean, which is characterized by active volcanoes and frequent earthquakes. So earthquakes or volcano ekhini jagat Ring of Fire jotheshto khini ami dekha pao. Second prelims fact hoy gol about the Abel moscas orisai. Okay, so which is a new wild okra species. Eta shrub eta hoy. Okay, tar naam to etu hoy Abel moscas orisai. It has been discovered in a moist deciduous forest in the Banspal block in the Kyonjhar district, Orissa. So please try to remember the location, please. So this shrub, which is up to 5 meters high, this is up to 5 meters high, has a densely hispid stem, deep yellow flowers, subreniform seeds with trichomes and a seed viability of 95%. It can be used for hybridization and widening the genetic base of okra. Next comes the white lung syndrome. China So China, white lung syndrome, a respiratory illness originating from the distinctive white patches on the chest X-rays in children, has sparked online speculation of a new pandemic threat after the COVID-19. The illness, which includes various respiratory illness like ADR, adverse drug reaction, then pulmonary alveolar microlithiasis and silica-related conditions, is caused by a combination of bacterial, viral, and environmental factors. So this is a respiratory disease that are details So this is our academic team. This is our content developing and technical team. So that's it for today, guys. Thank you very much.